Okay, kind of a response video to Pyro. You brought up the issue of human rights again. The subject comes up now, especially with the anarchists. Damn neighbor. But anyway, mostly animals. That's distracting. So anyway, yeah, well, okay, so I'm going to reiterate my point that I think it's so much easier to think about this thing in terms of responsibilities first. And I would argue the reason why classically in philosophy and thinking people haven't done that is just that they've always been fighting for rights. They've always been trying to defend rights from some monarch or some other force that was tyrannically oppressing them. So the context of the discussion has always been built around not developing the idea from some neutral position, but developing it from some position where you're attempting to defend your rights. And so that changes the mindset. But I think if you do break it down philosophically, if you go back to zero, you can easily understand that we are human beings, okay, with a plural, okay? We are not individuals. We are dependent on living with each other, integrating with each other. We are capable of harming each other in subtle ways, and it's important that there be boundaries on our behavior to preserve the civility that has to exist in a society. There's got to be some sort of common denominator definition of respect. We can't just expose every part of ourselves to each other and be whatever we want and call that civilization. It has to be some order, and there are common interests that it only makes sense to develop as a people rather than to develop as individuals or as groups or as tribes or as some other entities that will end up in very unproductive competition. So I'm going to push the point that I think it's better to try to define social responsibilities first and then realize that rights are everything. Once you've fulfilled your responsibilities to the rest of humanity, then everything else is your right. And I think it's a much easier way to frame the discussion than to focus on just the one element of the one half of the equation. I just think our vision has gotten skewed to one half of the discussion because for so long we have just been fighting oppressors, and it hasn't been about defining. Even the whole idea of government has such a negative connotation now, but in principle the idea of we the people is not a hostile or abhorrent concept, and it's only through politics and circumstantial crap that the memes or the ideas in our heads are so tainted by this limited perspective of we must preserve this personal liberty thing because personal liberty has been attacked. But understanding what we are entitled to as liberty is really what we're after. Understanding it, you got to see it in the whole. You got to see the whole frame. You just can't. If we're going to focus on just rights, you're never going to understand anything because it's impossible to start. Then you just get into majoritarian. Then you just get into some conversation about, well, by what standard do we define what a right is? Because I could certainly say that physical strength gives somebody rights. And nature here would have the right to do anything that physical strength allows him to do. And obviously there's no ethics or civil obligation built into such an idiotic construct. And it's like certain people want to say, well, this is the game and anybody can use any weapons they want in the game. And they don't even do that consistently though. Because often they'll concede that you have to have laws against polluting, you have to have laws against, you can't give everybody a nuclear bomb, you can't let everybody have access to horrifically toxic chemicals or some other way we have to limit individual power. Because we understand that power is what it's all built on. And the idea of rights is to give individuals power. And if you give them power, and if you give the system, if you oblige the system to fairly define or allocate power, that's it, a fair allocation of power. Maybe that's a good definition of what we're seeking. So anyway, we'll keep this short, and it's a little bit rambly, but I'm outside. See, that's the advantage. I don't know how many more of these I'm going to do. It's going to start getting cold, and then I won't want to be outside anymore. So, till next time.